Thanks for joining us. I'm Alex Bell, and this is To the Point. We are nearing the holidays, and this year, everything, as we all know, it's going to be way more expensive than in years past. So the numbers are finally out. The Labor Department released their snapshot of the state of inflation in America, and unfortunately, things are still not looking great. While prices in October were down a bit from September, we are still paying more than 7.5% for everyday needs, which cost people about $450 every month. So the impact is felt at our local food banks too. And the Sacramento Food Bank tells ABC 10 that this summer was the busiest summer in the history of their organization. And food banks across our area are facing increased demand. So in tonight's main point, it is very clear between the pandemic, inflation, and higher costs of living, the increased need for help still remains high.
To look somebody in the eye and to see their humanity and to recognize who they are and their need. The food will be gone and they'll need more food tomorrow, but the dignity we can give to people and the actual love and acknowledgement and value of them, that lasts a lot longer. I am the executive director of the Mercy Coalition here in West Sacramento. And the Mercy Coalition grew originally as a coalition of churches in the faith community all working together, coming together to serve those that are unsheltered, and grew into a full nonprofit. And we get this opportunity now to work with a lot of partners and volunteers in West Sacramento, providing a variety of services, supportive services as well as food services. And we've done that for about 12 years now. There's a whole segment of society that's getting pushed to the brink, pushed to the brink, pushed to the brink. We can talk about economic policies and everything, and all of that's important, but meanwhile, we better figure out how to catch people before they get pushed off a cliff. We have seen those numbers of those who need the emergency food bags. They have shot up since 7-8 months ago, predictably. The inflation problem has, of course, reached people on the poverty line most of all. So the need is greater. And so what we're doing becomes, even though the numbers have shot up, we've got to find a way to meet that need because more people are hungry and they need it. Every race, color, background, gender, age. There are a lot of reasons why people are hungry. There are a lot of reasons why food doesn't reach them. But for all of us, we're trying to bridge those gaps, whatever they may be, without judging who deserves it or who's to blame for the gap. We just want to fill the gap and love people with that, because it doesn't matter who you are. You deserve to eat. You really deserve to eat. And so it really is that little spark and that little need that we see in people's eyes that drives every single person, not just around the Mercy Coalition, but in so many of our partners and volunteers and everybody. It's what keeps them coming back. It's really not that hard. It's just a matter of being deliberately committed to it. At the end of the day, I think we all do it for the same reason. It's because when you look in the eyes of somebody who's hungry, or somebody who's hurting, or somebody who doesn't have the mental capacity to care for themselves and do things for themselves, your heart is moved, and it is that heart movement that ends up being behind all that we do.
Now, when I interviewed Don, I asked him if there are people who are going hungry because they may feel embarrassed to ask for help. And he said the question we need to be asking is, have we as a society made people feel embarrassed to ask for help? And the way he puts it, we've unintentionally created a dichotomy where there are people who are only giving help and people who are only receiving help. And that we often identify people based on what they don't have instead of realizing their worth and what they have to contribute. And we know that nearly 700,000 people in our area go to bed every night not knowing where their next meal will come from. And this is exactly why ABC 10 and Wells Fargo are coming together once again for the third annual Stand Against Hunger. So now through December 18th, the Stand Against Hunger campaign is raising money for 7 local food banks to help feed people who are in need this holiday season. A donation of just $1, that will buy 10 meals. And a donation of $10 will help feed a family of 4 for a full week. So for a list of participating food banks and how you can help, all you have to do is just text the word hunger to 916-321-3310. And speaking of help around the holidays, a lot of people are still asking where their inflation relief check is. The state says everything is going as scheduled, but there is still a lot of ground to cover. So about 7.5 million payments have already gone out, but the Franchise Tax Board estimated a total of about 18 million payments. And something to note you might have missed is that you have to be a California resident for at least 6 months during 2020 to be eligible for those inflation relief checks. So you should get a direct deposit if you filed your 2020 tax return electronically and got your stimulus as a direct deposit. So we're currently in the second round of direct deposit payments. You should see your deposit in your account by November 22nd. And then everyone else will be getting debit cards. Those started going out just a few weeks ago. But if you changed your banking info since filing your taxes in 2020, those cards will start getting mailed out on December 17th. They should all be sent out by January 14th. And if you think you should have gotten your payment by now, here's advice from the state. First, what you need to do is check your 2020 tax return to make sure that you're eligible. If something still doesn't seem right, you can call the Middle Class Tax Refund Customer Support Line. Their number is 800-542-9332. All right, the balance of power in Congress is still at a toss-up at this hour. So what's the holdup? We'll break it down when we get back. Okay, it's been 2 days since Election Day. We still do not know the final results of many local races, but that is to be expected. Sacramento County will release another batch of results tomorrow afternoon. And tonight, the balance of power in the U.S. House and Senate is still unknown. So here's what we know right now. Democrats or Republicans need 51 seats in the U.S. Senate to have control of the Senate. Right now, Democrats have 48 seats and Republicans have 49 seats, according to ABC News projections. And then in the House, you need 218 seats for control of the House. Right now, Democrats have 201 seats and the Republicans have 211 seats, according to ABC News. Now, the race for control of the Senate is now coming down to just 3 states: Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. Georgia will have a runoff election next month. Meanwhile, California Republican Congressman Kevin McCarthy is already announcing his interest in being Speaker of the House and replacing Nancy Pelosi, even though the House majority has not been called yet.
The votes for both the majority and the speakership?
Yes.
Now, according to preliminary exit polling, inflation and abortion were the top 2 issues driving how Americans voted. Analysts say the youth vote made a significant impact. And now it's time for Your Points Election Edition. A question we've gotten quite a few times from viewers is, why are news outlets calling races before all votes are officially counted? So ABC 10, we will call a race after ABC News, or the Associated Press, also called AP, declares election winners. The AP has an entire team of analysts that call races based on incoming votes. So they will take into account how districts have voted in the past and whether or not the race is closely contested. So a perfect example of this, the AP called the governor's race for Gavin Newsom right after the polls closed in California. In some states like California, a history of consistent wins by a wide margin makes a race eligible to be called by the AP as soon as those polls close. So polling data is then used to confirm a candidate has won. And here's another question that we've been getting a lot about. What assurances do we have that ballots were counted correctly? So here's the thing. Ballots go through an auditing process to prevent ballots from being counted twice. Election officials ensure the numbers of the ballots they have in-house matches the voter information that they have on file. They also conduct a random tally to make sure that the ballots are also being counted correctly. And the To The Point team has some great stories on this topic. So if you do want more information, just head to our website at abc10.com/tothepoint. All right, after the break, an author went to some great lengths to reunite with a West Sacramento teacher. Why he did it after the break. Tonight, we are sharing a story about gratitude. Have you ever thought about that special teacher from your childhood and how much of a difference they made in your life? Well, one award-winning local author says that his second grade teacher was so impactful that he spent years trying to track her down just to say thanks. So Becca Hobegger has the story tonight.
You know, I came to the States, I was about a year and a half.
Jamil Kochai immigrated to West Sacramento from Pakistan, the young son of Afghan refugees.
So I grew up in the States, but the thing is I grew up in a household filled with Afghan women who exclusively spoke Pashto and Farsi. So I didn't actually have an encounter really with the English language until I entered kindergarten.
The first couple of years at what was then Alice Norman Elementary School in West Sacramento were especially hard for him.
I think my teacher at the time didn't have a lot of experience with second language speakers. There was a few times I remember where I got punished for not understanding his instructions or not obeying him. I remember being very afraid that I was going to get something wrong or that I wasn't going to understand something.
But then came his second grade teacher, Mrs. Lung.
It was a complete turnaround for me. I recall having these after-school sessions with Mrs. Lung, and just the care and the kindness and the patience with which she was treating me while going over, you know, these reading or writing assignments. It was the first time that I began to understand that, you know, learning didn't have to be something that I was afraid of. It could be something that actually I deeply enjoyed. And so that's when I really started developing this lifelong love affair with reading and writing.
Jamil is now an award-winning author and teaches creative writing at Sac State. His first book, 99 Nights in Logar, was published in 2019.
My parents, they just kept emphasizing to me that, you know, one of these days you've got to find Mrs. Lung and you've got to thank her for everything she'd done for you. And I had that same feeling. And so I sort of began this almost lifelong search where, you know, the first thing I would just look up her name on Google, right? But Mrs. Lung had always been just Mrs. Lung to me. I didn't know her first name. And so that didn't turn up any results. I went back and I visited my old elementary school, Alice Norman, to see if they had any record of her. But because I didn't have her name, her first name, again, you know, I hit another brick wall. At a certain point, like, I got to a place where I was like, you know, I figured that she'd probably just moved on with her life. Maybe she lived in another state, and I probably wouldn't have this chance.
But then an essay Jamil wrote in which he mentioned Mrs. Lung was published on the literary website LitHub. And who would happen to read it but Mrs. Lung's neurologist?
She said, well, you're obviously Mrs. Lung and you're a teacher. And she said, I read this article and it was by this young man and he thanked you in this article. And that's where it all started for us to get back together again.
Yes, Mrs. Lung, who lives in Elk Grove with her husband Alan, reconnected with Jamil over Facebook, then by phone, and finally back in August, the two reunited in person at a book signing event in Davis.
I gave her a big hug, and it's something I've been waiting to do for 20 plus years. It was a really special moment. It almost felt like like 7-year-old Jamil again getting to see his teacher.
And the fact that they were looking all that time was incredible to me. It means everything to me to know how Jamil is living his life and being just a wonderful human being.
They hope their story can be a lesson that reaching out to that teacher from your past is well worth the effort.
Whew, well, that'll get you right here, won't it? Jamil and Mrs. Lung have met one another's families. They've even shared meals together, and Jamil still lives in West Sacramento with a family of his own now. And his second book came out earlier this year. It's a collection of short stories about family, immigration, war, and faith. All right, some good news for skiers and snowboarders. Thanks to our recent snow, many Tahoe ski resorts are opening early. This was the view at Boreal today. The resort just off I-80 will open tomorrow, and they have a special going on just for tomorrow. You can get a lift ticket for $25. All right, and take a look. Other Sierra resorts are also opening this weekend, too. We got Dodge Ridge will open on Friday, and then North Star, Kirkwood, and Heavenly will open on Saturday. Not a bad deal, Monica.
I know. Donner Ski Ranch also opening on Saturday as well, and many of those deals are courtesy of all of our veterans. So again, thank you so much for all your service. As far as our 10-day snow totals, this is why we're getting those early opening days, anywhere from 55 to over 70 inches of snow. And that's giving us a healthy snowpack and base as we start to dig into the early part of our season. More cloud cover coming in off the coast. That is going to impact our weekend forecast with clouds. That's also going to make it slightly warmer for tonight. It puts a little blanket over us, keeping those temperatures up slightly, but showers ahead for the weekend outlook. Now, in terms of what those temperatures will be shaping up for tonight, 34 to 40 degrees in the valley, 32 to 40 degrees in the foothills, and in the mountains, 8 to 18 degrees. As far as those temperatures right now, 20s up top for the Sierra, 30s and 40s already for the foothills, and we've dropped to 49 degrees for Sacramento, down to 46 already for Fairfield, on our way to the 30s overnight. You can see the cloud cover streaming on in and those lows falling into the upper 30s. Unseasonably cold conditions continue with our patchy frost developing tonight through early tomorrow. Friday midnight through 9 a.m. we've got this frost advisory in effect throughout the entire valley. We'll also see some areas of dense fog. Lots of travel happening over the 3-day weekend. If you're moving into the San Joaquin Valley along 99 and I-5, you'll encounter that fog heading southbound there. And so just some things to be aware of. Driving in the fog, slow down, allow for extra travel time, increase following distance, and use the low beams. If it just gets too bad, you want to make sure that you delay your travel or pull over to a safe area. And that many times means off the road entirely. Temperatures warm into the upper 50s for tomorrow's forecast, and those clouds start to thin out, but we are in the home stretch here of the days that we're going to be tracking. Thanksgiving just 2 weeks away, Hanukkah 38 days away, and 45 days till Christmas. Our 10-day forecast, Veterans Day tomorrow, high 58 degrees. It's going to be chilly for some of those memorial parades. And then as we head into the weekend, slight chance of showers on Saturday, drying out, but not really warming up here. Highs stay in the upper 50s and low 60s.
Tomorrow on To The Point, on Veterans Day, we are sharing the story of a Harlem hellfighter from World War I who has ties to Elk Grove. So just wait until you hear how he is being honored. It is absolutely beautiful. And I do want to say, here on To The Point, we really do love to highlight some of the amazing people right here in our community. So please reach out. I have Instagram, Facebook, or you can always shoot me and the team an email at abc10.com. I hope you have a great night. Take some time to relax, be with the family, enjoy. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey, it's Alex. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really love hearing from everyone, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. Reach out to me on Facebook at AlexBellTV, or you can email me at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send me a text message at 916-321-3310.